My name is Sergeant Miles Jensen, and if anyone had told me 6 months ago that I'd be standing at the gates of an alien military academy, I'd have laughed. Yet here I was on Regal 5, a planet known for its formidable warriors and strict military protocols. I was selected as the first human to participate in their intergalactic exchange program, a gesture of goodwill from Earth to strengthen our alliances across the stars. The air was crisp with a hint of sulfur, typical of Regal 5's volcanic activity, as I disembarked from the transport shuttle. My mission was clear: integrate, learn, and hopefully pave the way for future exchanges. However, the towering gates of the Regalian Military Academy seemed more daunting now that I was actually here. As I approached the entrance, my escort, a Regalian officer named Tharn, gestured to the insignia emblazoned across the archway. That symbol represents honor, strength, and discipline. The pillars of our training here, Tharn explained, his voice a deep rumble. Regalians were imposing figures. Even Tharn, who I'd come to understand was considered average for his species, towered over me by at least 2 feet. We walked through the gates and I was immediately struck by the precision and order that governed the academy. Units moved in flawless synchronization, their movements sharp and deliberate. I tried to hide my awe, but Tharn noticed. "It's quite different from your Earth academies, I imagine," he said, a slight chuckle vibrating his throat. "Yeah, you could say that," I replied, keeping my tone light. "We focus on flexibility and individual initiative a bit more." Tharn nodded, seemingly filing away my words for later thought. We continued through the sprawling compound until we reached what looked like the central command building. It was here that I would meet General Vorik, the Academy's commanding officer. The general was a formidable presence, his scarred face telling stories of battles long past. His eyes, a deep shade of red, fixed on me with an intensity that felt like physical pressure. "Sergeant Jensen, welcome. Your participation in our program is a significant step for both our peoples. We expect you to adhere strictly to our protocols. Deviation will not be tolerated," he stated firmly. "Understood, sir," I responded, keeping my posture rigid and my expression neutral. The next day marked the beginnings of my training, and it started before the sun rose. The physical drills were grueling, pushing me to the limits of my endurance. I kept up, driven by a mix of pride and determination not to show any weakness. However, it was during the combat simulations that trouble began. Regalian combat was a brutal ballet of efficiency and power, something I had studied but was vastly underprepared to execute. During a sparring session, my attempt to use a non-regulated maneuver, a quick takedown I thought would showcase human ingenuity, backfired spectacularly. My opponent, a seasoned cadet named Rokar, was not only surprised but visibly insulted. The session ended with me flat on the ground, nursing a bruised ego and a possibly dislocated shoulder, under the fierce and disappointed gaze of several Regalian instructors. Word of the incident spread quickly, and by evening, I was summoned to General Vorik's office. As I walked the familiar path back to the command building, my mind raced with possible consequences. Breaking protocol on my first day was not the impression I intended to make, and I braced myself for a reprimand, or worse, expulsion from the program. The walk to General Vorik's office felt longer than usual. Each step echoed ominously through the halls of the Regalian Military Academy's command building, blending with the low rumble of volcanic activity that perpetually resonated from the planet's core. My mind was a whirlwind of regret and apprehension, replaying the day's events over in my head. Upon entering the office, I found General Vorik standing by a large window that overlooked the training grounds. His back was to me, his posture rigid, exuding authority and displeasure. "Sergeant Jensen," he began without turning, his voice deep and resonant, "your actions today have not only challenged the discipline of this academy, but have also shown a disregard for our combat protocols." I stood at attention, my throat tight. "Sir, I apologize for my conduct. It was not my intention to disrespect the Academy's protocols. I was merely trying to adapt using techniques from my training on Earth." Finally, Vorik turned to face me, his scarred features stern. Adaptation does not mean abandonment of order. Here at Regal 5, each maneuver in our combat training has been honed by centuries of warfare and peacekeeping. To assume you could improvise on your first day is not only foolish, but dangerous. His words stung with truth, and I felt my initial defensiveness begin to wane. I understand, General. I appreciate the gravity of my mistake. Vorek's gaze softened slightly, and he walked back to his desk. Rokar, your opponent today, has requested a formal trial by combat to resolve this matter according to our traditions. Such trials are not to the death, but they are not to be taken lightly. They are a test of honor, skill, and resolve. A trial by combat. The phrase sent a chill down my spine, but I knew that refusing would only worsen the situation. I accept the trial, General. I'll face Rokar and honor your traditions. Very well, Vorek nodded. It will take place tomorrow at dawn. Tonight you will prepare. I suggest you use this time wisely. Dismissed, I left his office and headed straight to the Academy's library. If I was to have any chance against Rokar, I needed to understand the Regalian combat philosophy more deeply. Surrounded by digital tomes of military tactics and historical battles, I spent the night poring over texts, simulating moves, and mentally preparing for what would undoubtedly be one of the toughest challenges of my military career. As dawn approached, I donned the protective gear required for the trial, its weight settling on my shoulders like the burden of the task ahead. The entire academy seemed to hold its breath as I stepped into the arena where Rokar awaited, his figure imposing under the early light. The trial would not just be a test of physical strength, but a pivotal moment to prove my respect for Regalian ways. As the first rays of the sun touched the edge of the arena, marking the beginning of the trial, I steadied my resolve. This was about more than just survival. It was about honor, understanding, and finding my place in a culture far from home. As the first light of dawn spilled over the horizon, casting long shadows across the arena, I stood facing Rokar, my heart pounding in my chest. The air was tense with anticipation, the silent audience of Regalian cadets and officers watching intently. Rokar's stance was calm and measured, his bioluminescent skin glowing softly in the morning light, signaling his readiness. General Vorek's voice broke the silence, his tone resonant and formal. This trial by combat will resolve the dispute between Sergeant Miles Jensen and Cadet Rokar. Let honor guide your actions. I nodded, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes upon me. The traditional Regalian salute started the trial, and with a deep breath, I mirrored Rokar's gesture. The first exchange was swift. Rokar moved with a speed that belied his size. His attacks, a series of well-coordinated strikes, aimed to test my defense. I dodged and parried, recalling the moves I had studied the night before. The Regalians valued precision and power, but I hoped that my agility and unpredictable human tactics might level the playing field. As the duel progressed, I began to anticipate Rokar's patterns. Each parry and thrust brought me closer to understanding his strategy, and slowly I started to gain ground. A quick sidestep allowed me to dodge a powerful blow, giving me a chance to counter. My response was not traditional Regalian technique, but a combination that integrated human resourcefulness with the basics I had learned from their combat manuals. The crowd murmured with surprise and interest as we exchanged moves, the battle becoming a display of not just brute strength, but strategic prowess. Rokar paused, his skin flashing a spectrum of colors, which I had learned indicated respect among his people. "Sergeant Jensen," Rokar said, loud enough for all to hear, "your adaptation and respect for our ways earned my admiration." I was taken aback by his words, the fight pausing as we assessed each other with a new understanding. "Cadet Rokar, it is an honor to learn and contend with you," I replied, the sincerity of my words reflecting my deep respect for the culture that had so challenged and changed me. General Vorek stepped forward, signaling the end of the trial. "This trial by combat is concluded. Both participants have demonstrated honor and strength. Let this be a lesson in the value of understanding and respect across cultures." The approval from the general and the audience was palpable, and as they saluted us, I felt a sense of accomplishment and relief. Rokar and I approached each other, not as adversaries, but as comrades, our handshakes sealing a newfound mutual respect. In the days that followed, my integration into the academy improved significantly. The trial had not only tested my combat skills, but had also broken down barriers between me and the Regalian cadets. I shared meals with them, participated in their discussions, and continued to learn from their disciplined approach to military life. As my time on Regal 5 drew to a close, I reflected on my experiences at the academy. I had arrived as an outsider, a human among aliens, but I was leaving as a friend and ally. The lessons I learned went beyond military tactics. They were lessons of tolerance, adaptation, and the power of extending honor beyond one's own understanding. Standing once again before the academy gates, ready to return to Earth, I knew I was not the same soldier who had arrived. I was returning with a wealth of knowledge and experiences that would help foster deeper connections between Earth and Regal 5. The journey had been one of true discovery, pushing the boundaries of what it meant to serve with honor among the stars.